I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. How do the most visible leaders stay trusted and relevant in a noisy world? Danielle Sabrina has spent her career helping them do exactly that. As founder of Society22 PR, one of Inc. 5000's fastest growing firms, Danielle has guided CEOs, athletes, celebrities in building credibility that scales. Named Female Entrepreneur of the Year and one of CIO's top 20 female entrepreneurs to follow, she joins me to unpack how smart brands turn trust into momentum. My interview with Danielle Sabrina is coming right up. But first, Danielle, welcome to On Brand.
Thanks, Nick. Happy to be here.
So, you often say that credibility is the new currency. What does that mean in today's media and brand landscape that's increasingly confusing?
Well, we all have so many choices. And, there's two ways. Sometimes it's like looking at B2C brands and then B2B. And when it comes to trust and credibility, like we're not Coke right off the jump. We're not Cisco. We're not, like we have to hustle hard in the beginning. And without that trust and credibility, why should anyone choose to buy from you? And the bigger the higher ticket your services are, the more trust and credibility that's required. Because it's not like, oh, I'll just try this new, brand of soda. I'll just try this new skincare line or, something that's like, okay, if I don't like it, I'll give it away or throw it away.
So it really does, trust, feel like the ultimate differentiator right now, but it's something that's very fragile and kind of hard to build and maintain. What are most brands that you're seeing out there getting wrong about this?
I'm really talking about it from like not anything that I'm saying just in context is not like related to a lot of the bigger brands out there. Cause I think the people who are probably going to listen to this podcast and the ones that I come across most that are like when we're really thinking about brand, you tend to like everything references these huge brands. And it's just so not in the same playing field. So when we're thinking about a brand and what it represents and the trust and the credibility, like you really have to look at it from like who are you as an individual, a founder behind the brand first and foremost. Because we all want to create the like I hear a lot, and this is kind of not your question you asked, but something that I hear a lot is like, oh, well, one day I want to sell my company, so I don't want my personal name associated too much with my brand. And I'm like, great. Do you have a multi-million dollar marketing budget? Right off the bat per month. Not even per year, but per month, because
Yeah.
that's what would be required to like get the type of interest that you would need to get without being founder led. And then even so, like it's still we're even moving more towards founder led, even with bigger brands.
Well, it's the founder, it's their story, which is often leads to the brand story as well, which helps them to build something bigger. But it's almost like a relay race too, that it doesn't negate their question of, hey, I want something bigger than just Nick so that someday I can sell this. But that first leg of the relay feels like it needs to be the founder's story. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and I have in my experience, and I've done a lot of M&As, taken a lot of companies public, I have never seen like a founder-led brand that still didn't get sold for what it wanted to get sold for. Like if anything, it was even stronger. It wasn't like,
Wow.
oh, this isn't going to get acquired because your name's attached to it. Because the IP of your name is like yours.
Well, and as we talk about building that IP, building that name and personal brand, your business has PR in its name. And PR for a lot of people, they think simply of the acronym of public relations, but beyond that, just like press releases. And how has
It's literally that's what people think is press
I
release.
know, I know, and so As someone that may answer that question a lot, how do you talk about PR today beyond the PR of press releases?
Yeah. It's really just it's building trust and authority with yourself, especially earned media. I think earned media is very powerful. It's permanent real estate online. Going to continue to pay you dividends. It's not going anywhere. Someone can find an article or a news segment that you were on decades later.
Yeah.
So it's building that up. A press release is just one tool in all of the tool sets.
So you've said that earned media only works if the story does. What makes a story truly media ready today?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of like a big question. So there's a lot of different stories. There could be a story that relates to a current news cycle. If we're talking about a story that you have, it's really like it will be media ready when you have really shared what you need to share and you can hook someone. Like I start my story off with I was a high school dropout, a teen mom, and I went on to become one of the youngest traders on Wall Street when I was 19. Like, have a good hook. And that summarizes a huge part of like what I've done, but like have a good hook and don't be afraid to share who you are, even if that is maybe a little uncomfortable because you've been through challenges in your life that you'd rather not relive. But there's probably some gems in there that if you work with a storyteller can really help you. Or there could be something that you didn't even think was a big deal that someone else hears and was like, oh wow, let's run with that. Um, I was gonna say something else too on that. It's okay. You can ask me then my next question. It'll
That's
come back to me. It's so early for me here
no,
to be.
no, no worries. Well, I think about that and, the role of the leader's story. And you talked a bit about your own. And I think increasingly today, we see the personal brands, the founder brands, the leader brands that are succeeding demonstrate authenticity in a way that many find refreshing because we've kind of coming out of a period where we have aggressively sanded out every rough edge. So anything that feels off the cuff, that feels real, is something that people gravitate towards. But at the same time, we see that backfiring a lot too. And how do you balance authenticity with strategy and control in managing your public persona?
When do you feel like you see that backfired? So I can understand.
When someone maybe says something that for them felt like that is an authentic hot take, and it is out of tune with what the audience is wanting to
Okay.
hear.
Well, I mean, listen, like we're living in new times and it's also an opportunity to course correct. Like you may want to sit down with each generation that's out there in the ethers, consuming content and share some of your beliefs and let them get some feedback because your beliefs might need to be updated. You might have you might say something that's, some a Gen Z might say, you can't say that anymore. Or someone else, like we do that with our clients, but like you could do that by just chatting with someone. Like look at how different audiences are consuming content, hear the different sides, like take something that's polarizing and listen to both sides. So that if for some reason you get asked about it or you're commenting on it or you think you have a hot take on it, like you're being sensitive to both sides, but you can still be true to yourself.
So, when you're working with CEOs, athletes, celebrities, where do you start with the story that they want to tell, or a perception that they feel they need to change?
Well, a lot of times they don't know what that is yet.
Mm,
So it's really getting to know them and getting to know their entire story, taking a look at what kind of market they're in, who are they going to be in their brand, what stage of the brand are they in, what stage of the company are they in, because these are all different aspects. Like if you have $100 million plus revenue company, but you've never built your brand, because there's a lot of those that exist that are now like, oh, wait, we need to figure this out. How you go about building that brand and sharing your story might be very different than a scrappy startup. So it's just
on
getting
brand. We'll be right back after this. Now, back to the show. So prior to our ad break, you were telling us.
I was saying that there's just like it depends on where like someone is at in their business and in their brand cycle. So is it an older established company? Is there like a much bigger, is it the story first, or do we need to update the entire perception of the company? Are you a scrappy startup? Like, where did you come from? Everybody has a story to tell. It's just a matter of like working with someone, usually, I think, or if you're able to do it yourself, great. But like, write down a complete timeline of your life and the things that are very notable that stand out to you, that you remember, and get details about it. Talk to your family, what happened in these years. Like I know as we get older, I'm like, I don't know where I was living at 3 years old, like I don't remember where I was living when I was 20. Like, and see, what kind of patterns are there? Like, what if you weren't judging yourself? Like, what has the trajectory been? Like, what is unique about your progress in life and where you've come from? Because that will give you some clues.
You a lot of what you're talking about in terms of kind of the intake strategy with a new client, considering different things, it really seems like the perspective is so important. You've hit on that a couple of times, and I think that that's really key to remember because a lot of times I'm trying to figure out a way to say this that doesn't sound a little woo, but we aren't always the best at analyzing our own story. And you mentioned earlier, um, but in thinking about that, I think that it's so important to have someone else to just talk through. You talked about the example earlier of someone, kind of breezing past something that they don't think is critical, but they often don't understand how it might resonate with their audience. So, how do folks listening that might be a on the scrappy startup side, is there a way to self-analyze your story, or is it better to find an external partner to bounce those ideas off of?
I mean, it depends. You could, I mean, I would do the work, as much work as possible yourself first, because this is something that feels like you're tempted to just give it away. Like, do this, this is too much. And as entrepreneurs, we want to delegate. That's what we should be doing. But sometimes like you need to really sit with it, digest, and spend some time on it. So when you do go to someone, you're like, okay, here's what I have, and you've really thought through it, versus like just relying on them to ask you the questions that will reveal what needs to be asked. That can come after they look at what you've done. But I would say if you're starting, what I would do is think about your target audience and what is some of the absolutes that your target audience, like, what do you need to portray to your target audience? For example, let's say you have a health tech startup that sells to like hospital systems or provider networks. And you know that several of the things that they look for is, why are you going to be around in 25, 50 years? Like, can I trust you? Because I'm about to put you into my entire system. How did you even start this company? what kind of like, financial record do you have, or who's on your cap table if you have investors, if you don't, like, again, they are wondering what this and that number is. So think about that when you tell your story, and think through your life and be like, okay, how can I tell a story? Because we have a million stories we can tell about ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you tell a story that like create the perception for you that, you know what, I am undeniably like able to go the mile. And you can weave that in seamlessly in your story by just giving examples of your past. It doesn't have, maybe this is your first startup. Maybe you've never had a company, but maybe you have started and completed a number of projects in school, or maybe there's something that you do, a volunteer that you can share, like, here's what I've done. Like, there's got to be something there so that you're answering these questions that these technology officers or whoever you're selling to, this is applicable to any target audience, has in their mind. Like, why should I trust you? And you don't want to say, here's why you can trust me, but tell stories that demonstrate like the type of trust that they're looking for. They're not looking to see, are you a good person necessarily? Are they, like, that's not their first. Of course, everybody wants to work with good people, but like, if you're working with a life coach, like, that might be one of the first concerns. Like, how is your own integrity? Maybe integrity is like the biggest thing that like they're looking for. Like, what have you actually done and overcome in your life to give me direction? So think about that, and then you can pick your story. And I will also say this, like, your brand evolves and your story evolves. So let it evolve. Like, get going. Tell a good enough story and get going and keep telling it, and it will get refined.
I laughed when you mentioned instead we often jump to here's why you can trust me, like reasons, it's I mean I think it feels easy to grab onto, logical bullet points rationalizing our traits that make us trustworthy, and we miss the fact that telling a story that demonstrates why you can trust us is that much more powerful.
Like, part of the reason why I address immediately that I was a high school dropout, a teen mom, but I went on to become one of the youngest traders, is because I work with venture backed companies and I work in a space where there is a lot of trust and credibility needed. And they look for college degrees, which I don't have. And when I was starting off, like, it's not like I had this huge portfolio of clients that have these incredible results because I was just starting my company. We have that now, but I didn't have that when I first started. But what that signals is that people who are in the industry know that your Series 7, which is the exam that's required to be a trader, is the third hardest exam in the United States. So if I passed that when I was 19 years old, like, they're not going to, no one's going to care that I didn't graduate college.
Yeah.
So instead of it being like, oh, where did you, like, I addressed it right up front. Yep, I was a teen mom. Yes, I dropped out of high school. Like, but here's what I did. And that's how I just moved past like the insecurities I felt going into a space where everyone graduated from college. Everybody had, internships at Accenture, and everybody, like, had just all
Yeah.
these like really big brand names on their resume. So that's what I did, was like, I'm not even going to, I'll tell my own story, but here's how I'm going to spin it. And it's impressive because it is impressive, but I
You know,
wouldn't even think to tell that, because why would I think to associate that with my PR agency?
well, and so many bring their own personal baggage with it that think, oh, they've got their guilt and things that are like, oh, that's nothing. That's something they think the opposite. In fact, that's something I need to hide or talk my way around. But as you mentioned, everybody everybody on paper increase and paper on screen looks increasingly the same, has the same background, the same. It's our stories that make us unique. This is like the rabbit hole I could go down because I teach at the University of Iowa and lead a program in our
Oh,
College of Business called Story Lab, which is all about helping our students understand that story that you might not think is relevant to this is actually one of your best tools as you're getting to know new people, and your story is demonstrative of that.
Thank you. And if you don't have a story that's like this rags to riches or just some like big thing, maybe like you felt like, oh, I had a pretty like great childhood and life was great. And like now I'm doing this. So I feel like I don't really have that story. Like you don't have to focus on that. Like don't try to create
Yeah.
a story arc. Don't do that. If it's not there in your own, like, don't try to make something be this like horrible thing you went if it wasn't and it wasn't. What I would focus on is why are you the person to be doing what you're doing? Like we were writing a bio even for one of the women on our team, and she went into how she, like her bio had a lot to do with like, oh, I'm restoring this like 19 something farmhouse. I like my passion is cooking. It's what I do on the weekends. Like, and, through an acute thing, like, oh, one of my favorite projects is like a built-in spice cabinet I built with my dad. And this bio all had to do with her being a publicist for our author clients and their cookbooks. So you can weave in like why you are the right one to be doing what you're doing. You don't have to create. And some people like just don't. It also, if you had a really traumatic life and you're just not like you don't want to relive it right now because you haven't done the work yet or
Right.
whatever it is, like that's fine. But focus on like why should you be the one that's so passionate about like what I'm doing? Like why should we work together?
So, as we are here, we're in Q4 looking ahead to a new year. And, I've probably already said, even in the interview a couple of times, rapidly changing, increasingly volatile, all of these things that we just are using so much that we're almost becoming immune to any sort of urgency or meaning there. But you've built one of Inc. 5000's fastest growing PR firms. What's been key to scaling in an industry that's always changing at a time that I think you could also describe as volatile as well?
It's been a lot. However, like we do things very differently at the agency. And I think that is our secret sauce. Like the way we deliver media, we've honed in on being the absolute best at execution. Like nobody is getting better media hits than my agency. Like come for me and I will go against you because like, you won't beat me. You just won't. Like we've, but we're not everything to everybody. That's what we do. We do earned media. We stick with that, and we're highly dedicated to it. What has helped with scaling is really understanding our P&L. And also, you have to go through this period when you're scaling that you're just going to make a lot of mistakes because you're new and it's the first time you're doing it. And like, you don't have a small team anymore. So now, like, one change can be really detrimental. It's not this intimate little setting anymore. So you hire one person that you think is going to be great, but maybe they're like toxic. But you don't know that. There's no way, there's no personality test, there's no amount of vetting you can do until like you've had experience. You just have to experience some shit. And I just kept telling myself, I would rather have a mistake now than this be $100 million mistake. And like, let's move on because you just don't know. Like, you can talk to everybody, who's been there. You can get all the advice. You can hire experts. You can have everybody you want, but like, you just don't know. And when other people come into your business who talked a big game and are like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And you're like, great, we're off to the races. And then they maybe can't do what they said they were going to do. What they're going to try to do is change everything. So they're going to tell you this isn't working. I don't have this. Like I'd be successful if I had this. Well, this isn't set up. So then you're investing in new technology. You're hiring new people. You're doing all of this work when it's really like, oh, no, you weren't the right person for the position. So there's no like secret sauce other than like getting in the weeds, have way more capital saved up than you think you need because it's a really stressful time and and like you can't start making fear-based decisions because that will destroy your team. So make sure you have like some cushion and be prepared that like you need to try it. It's kind of like ads. Like if you were like, oh, well, I put a few $1,000s into ads, but it didn't work. And it's like, no, you need to put in like 20, 30, 40, 50,000 in a short period of time to understand what does and doesn't work. And then you can say, it's the creative, it's this, it's that. So I think those are things that when you're scaling to just be prepared for. And you can't say you're scaling and then make little baby moves and then make your decision based on bad data.
Well said. And I think summing it up of just having to go through some shit.
Yeah. I mean, what can you, one year we invested several $100,000 in masterminds to learn from the best of the best.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if you're going to join a mastermind, come to me. I'll tell you which ones are worth it, which ones aren't. But my favorite is Strategic Coach. That's the only one I stuck with. But if I could do that again, I think I would have taken that money and invested it somewhere else and remembered who I was. I'm the one who started this business. It was just a new territory. It's a new territory. And what do we want to do? We want to get, when we don't know, right? We want to get people who know. We want to learn from the experts. We want to learn. But sometimes, like, if your business is unique, I don't have the kind of model that we can just like scale like crazy. That's not my company, nor will it ever be. We can scale at a sustainable pace, but what we do is creative. And I can't just hire someone tomorrow and expect them to fit into what we do at our agency, which is very different. You can't, what is that saying? Like you can't, there's no substitute for time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can make more money. You can't make more time.
Right. And you sometimes just have to give it time.
Yeah. So I have smiled many times during our conversations, as you can see. And now it's my turn to get to ask you, Danielle, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Probably Skims. I really like all the collaborations that they're doing. Like, I think that I love the North Face one. There's another one that I really loved too, but I think there's a lot of them. So it's almost like you don't even have time to figure out which collab is going on. But so I would have liked them to slow down a little bit with the collabs, but I do think it's a cool, I like it a lot. I would buy something Skims and North Face if I lived somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and with all of the collabs happening at once, the other side of that is the impression that, and again, increasingly hard in the noisy landscape and all of the other caveats that we've been talking about this whole interview, but there's also the perception that they're kind of everywhere. Because I think about them like in the WNBA and just all over the place.
Yeah, so they're doing a really good job.
Danielle, where can we send folks to learn more about who you are and what you do?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, Danielle Sabrina, Instagram, Danielle Sabrina 7. Definitely our website, Society22PR.com.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Danielle Sabrina, thanks for being on brand with us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.